Welcome back to the Manly Mythical Story Emporium. I'm your host, Thurston J.Y. Manley, your speaker's favorite speaker, the pugilist of pontification, the man that has more stories than the Burj Khalifa. Yes, it is me, and I welcome you back. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate all the followers, whether it's on Twitter, Manly Story Pod, or IG Manly Mythical Story, or email me, manlystory@gmail.com, with any show ideas. I do appreciate the follower that sent me the email suggesting how I could add videos, because I was complaining about all I had to go through to take the podcast to add a video. Well, thank you for your help. We now have all of the podcasts, and I'm sure this one will come up 24 or 48 hours after you listen to it on YouTube. So all those videos are available on YouTube, and I'm going to re-download those. Yes, I will re-download those and put them on my Facebook too. So you can find me on Facebook, Manly Mythical Story Emporium, as well. I want to apologize to one of our listeners that is in Curacao. That is how it's pronounced. I did receive a message, a voice message for one of my listeners that is in Ecuador, telling me that you don't say Caraco, like blue Caraco, like the liquor. You say Curacao. So shout out to my Curacao listeners, because that's something you shouldn't do. That is definitely a sign of insensitivity and possibly racism if they don't want to pronounce your name or say something right that is culturally different than their own. So Curacao, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate the followers. I noticed I did have some new listeners in New Guinea. Thank you. Keep listening. I hope there's something in there you like. Today's stories are going to be dealing with Uber. At one point, I did drive Uber regularly. I drove Uber for over 2.5, almost 3 years. I did it on the weekends, which gives you the best stories. The first story of the Uber stories is going to be your Uber sense, like Uber senses, much like Spidey senses. So Uber senses. And the second story is no dash cam, no problem. So no dash cam, no problem. And Uber senses. The no dash cam, no problem. We'll see how that goes. That's going to be almost like a two-parter, I think. But Uber senses and no dash cam, no problem. So I hope you enjoyed the two stories. They'll be coming right at you right after this ad for Anchor. So please enjoy, like, and if you're interested in sponsoring the podcast or get any more ideas, like the wonderful app that was suggested to me to download my podcast and put it up to video. That was a great idea, and I appreciate the listener for sending it to me. Oh, and for those that want to know what that app is called, I think it's called Head. Let's see what that app is called. I got it in here somewhere. The app that I am using, I think it's Headspace, or no, it wouldn't be Headspace. That's for your mental health. So it's a different app. I'll find out what that app is. I'll throw it in at the end of the podcast. But it's a wonderful app. It helps me download my podcast. It's called Headliner. So thank you guys for listening. Enjoy the podcast. Headliner app. It's a great app. They're not paying for the podcast, so that's all you get is one shout out. Please enjoy after this commercial. First story, Uber senses. Second story, no dash cam, no problem. Thanks, guys. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right. It was a warm July night in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The time was 11:30 p.m. and I had just got an Uber ride. I had been driving all day. By all day, meaning I started at 7 p.m. I like to start driving around 7 p.m. so I can start getting those people going to the bar, and then I can figure out where they're going, and then I can pick them up from the bars that evening, or weddings and dinners and debutante balls and things like that. But I decided, why not? Go with it. Let's find out where these people are going. And sure enough, I found out in Winston-Salem, it was more rides. And that's usually where I focus my driving at. One of the reasons we get more rides in Winston-Salem is the bars are closer together, the rides are back-to-back. People take Uber rides for what would normally be a walk in a bigger city like a New York or Chicago. So they're going to call it Uber because we don't do that in the South. We ain't down for all that walking in the city. You're going to give me an Uber ride. And I developed, because by this time I had been driving for about 9 months. And I'm a good person or people's reader. I can see somebody, assess them, and see how much trouble they're going to be. And around 11:30 or 12 at night, you start getting the drunks that are leaving the bar under suggestion. What does that mean? Not meaning that they're drunks or alcoholics, but they are currently inebriated and they are being suggested to leave, meaning they've had too much to drink to make it to the bar closed. So these people at that 11:30 to 12 o'clock hour, you got to watch them, especially if they come by themselves. And this is one of those cases. I pull up to the Sofa Bar. The bar is called the Sofa Bar, and it's on a side street, which is 4th Street in Winston, and it's a pretty busy road. Ubers often stop in the middle. There's a light that people want to get through, but they can't, and it's a lot of back and forth. A lot of cars on the road, jam-packed, and I've learned this little trick where I'll pull off onto the side road, and I can park either way. I'll go in the wrong direction. I'll go whatever I need to do to get close to the bar. So I'm driving my minivan that night, and I got a request for a ride. And sometimes when you get a request for a ride in a van, it'll say Uber X. Uber X meaning it's 1 to 3 people. You know, technically I think it's 1 to 4 people. Now it's probably 1 to 3 due to the pandemic. Because if you're in a regular car, you can have 3 people in the back and 1 in the front. But now they don't allow you in the front. But I got the ride, so I'm thinking it's 1 person. But as happens when you're driving a van and they see you pull up, it's like, oh snap, all of us can ride in this 1 car and it'll save us money. We'll just add stops. And usually I go with it because I usually give them a little look to say like, oh, I'll do it. But you know, I got to take care of my 19 kids, you know, kind of pour mouth them to get a bigger tip or get some cash out of them on that ride. But tonight I pulled up, and it was a lady, and her friends were holding it up. It was a group of 4 girls. These are women, 4 women. I won't say girls because they've been drinking, and they were past the just started drinking age, so they were probably 25 to 26. And they're holding this one lady up, and she has a cup in her hand. She has a clear cup, like one of those, I call it a wedding cup, like the plastic cup, not a solo cup, like the see-through cup, and it had a clear liquid in it, which I already know is going to be water, because the bars in North Carolina, especially the Sofa Bar there, they're really uptight about you're not taking any drinks out because they got security at the door. So this means that somebody has given this lady water, because one of her friends or herself under her own advice has figured, I've had enough to drink. I need to hydrate. Otherwise, I'm going to get sick. Ding, ding, ding. First Uber Sense goes off. Identifies cup. Knows this person is extremely drunk. So the friends look at me and is like, is this your ride? It's a van. And they look back at me and I was like, yeah, my name is George. Is this Sarah? They say, yes, it's Sarah. I confirm. Okay, Sarah, I'm your ride. She says, looks at her phone, fumbling with it, says, oh yeah, it's my ride. And then her other friend's like, you're not going to hurt her, are you? Now, normally this would be kind of an offensive thing, but when you're dealing with people that are drunk in the middle of the night, they ask questions like this. She thinks that if I was a person to hurt women, that if she just asked that question, I'd be like, yeah, I was going to hurt her, but since you asked, I guess I need to pull off and cancel this ride. So I said, no, of course not, because I don't hurt women and because that's a stupid question. No, of course not. I'll just take her to where she needs to get. She's like, she's pretty drunk. Just make sure. And then she offers to the girl that she's putting in my car, do you want me to ride with you? Do you want to ride with us? Do you stay with us? She's like, no, I gotta get home to my boyfriend. So I'll go. I'm fine. She is not fine. So she gets in the car. In the back of the van, I had already opened the door, and they said, okay, call me when you get home. So that's already set. She's going to call him when she gets home. She gets in the van. Sliding door closes. She gets in on the appropriate side where I can see her in the rear view to my right. But then she keeps sliding as if some more people are getting in the van, so she's behind me now. I don't feel threatened. I size her up. It's nice young girl that I could take if I had to. So if she tried anything, I'd be, ready to bring the smoke if I got to. So she gets behind and she's leaning on the windshield. And now I'm trying to establish a conversation. Because normally I'm a talker. But if somebody doesn't respond, I don't talk. That's fine for airport rides. But if you're a person that's been drinking, I need you to be talking to me at all times. We need to establish communication. Because I need to know if I need to pull over if you're sick. Or if you decide to want to fight me. Or if you decide to, tear my car up. Or decide to throw up in the car, spit in the car, kick, or start crying for no apparent reason, which does happen. But we're talking. And we're just discussing. She's like, yeah, I went out with my friends. My boyfriend gonna be so mad. Oh, I'm not feeling good. So she's not feeling good. I was like, okay, well, you let me know that if you're not feeling well, we'll pull over. And I said again, let me know. And by the way, this night, I happened to have an extra bottle of water. I was like, would you like some water? I see that you had some from the bar. You can take my extra bottle. Because a $1.50 bottle of water that I have for myself is more important to be in her as opposed to be throwing up in my car. So I give her the water. She's drinking the water. And she says, I'm not feeling well. And what pissed me off that she's saying she's not feeling well is that we're less than a quarter of a mile from the house. I have made the turn off the major road. I see her apartment complex, but now she's not feeling well. Appreciate you for telling me. Kind of frustrated you're not feeling well now. So I pull the van over into the front of this business park. And it's just on the road, just right off a dip. It's just the entrance to the business park. I pull over. She's behind me, which is actually perfect in this situation. I come out the door and I open the door for her. And she says, thank you for opening the door. Can you hold the water? So I hold the water that I gave her. And she wants to lean to kind of throw up. So she leans over to throw up. She does not unbuckle her seatbelt. So now she's hanging. So I'm on the side of the road holding a water bottle with this woman that's hanging out of the van in front of me with the seatbelt right in between her breasticles in the front, and she's just hanging like cliffhanger, like she's just hanging off like I'm Geppetto or something, and this is Pinocchio making her dance. So she's hanging on the seatbelt because she didn't unbuckle, and she's about to yak. And I, being the gentleman that I am, grab her hair and pull it back, and she's like, thank you for holding my hair. See, I'm not really holding her hair because I'm a gentleman. I'm holding her hair because unlike the water bottle or clothes, the hair, turns out, has to get back into my van. So if she throw up gets on her hair comes back in the van, and then I got throw up on my seat. So I'm holding her hair. She's yakking a little bit. Thank God for the water. Yak is clear. Not a strong smell to it. Got my feet back. I'm now in this wide pose that is probably similar to something Buddhist monks are trained in when they drive Uber. And I'm holding her hair back, and she's hanging over, and she's just yakking. And cars are driving by. I can only imagine what they're thinking. That this black man is like ooga booga caveman and this woman out of the van. But she's yakking. She finishes yakking. She drinks some more water. I was like, why don't you switch that water around and spit it out so your boyfriend doesn't get mad? Oh, you know about my boyfriend? Yeah, I heard you talking about him in the bar, and I'm sure he's going to be really excited to have you here. She gets back in the van. By back in the van, I mean I'm holding her hair and kind of pulls her back in the van. Her eyes roll safely back to where I can see her pupils. And she says, thank you. The house is real close. I was like, yes, I know. So I get back in the van, close the door. We drive off. Get to the house. She realizes now that she wants to leave me a tip. And she's like, I'm going to leave you a big tip. Can't find her phone. We sit there for 1 minute. I get out of the van. I put the flashlight on my phone, look under seats, cannot find her phone. And I was like, okay, since we can't find the phone in the van, you can always call me later from your boyfriend's phone through the app. The app will give you the phone, and they will call me through the app. I'll be online. Or send me a message if I find the phone. Or especially, send me a message if you find the phone. I don't care if she really finds the phone. But send me a message if you find the phone. That's something nice you say to drunk people to get them out of your car in the middle of the night in a neighborhood that's not the best. Because this apartment is not like normal nice apartments. These are like the apartments with all the doors open to the front, like a motel. You know, not like a hotel with a hallway, but like a motel. Like it's an old motel that got turned into apartments. So I don't like that at all, because anybody has those doors, that is not the most secure neighborhood, and other thieves and criminals probably know it. So she gets out, asks for my phone number. I give her my real phone number because she's drunk and not thinking. And then I also give her my Facebook, because she demands my Facebook to send me messages. She's like, okay, I got your real name for Facebook. I was like, all right, great. I was like, it's probably back where you threw up at over there. She's like, oh yeah. Who decided to pull over? I was like, your throw up decided to pull over, because if you would have threw up in the van, it's $150, you would pay me, and we figured that would be better for you to throw up on the road as opposed to like in my van and be disgusting. And she said, oh yeah, I guess that's a good idea. I was like, why don't we drive back over there? I can either stop the ride or keep the ride going. Doesn't want to do that. She gets out, goes in the house. I drive back to where she had her moment. Sure enough, her big, like, Droid phone, I don't know which one it was, Samsung something. It was a bigger one. It's bigger than, like, an iPhone Plus. Black phone is on this black paved parking lot where I pulled over at still. And lucky enough, I didn't run over it, or nobody picked it up and walked off. So I get the phone, pick it up, drive back to the apartment, knock on the door. Boyfriend gives me the stink eye and says, thank you, and snatches the phone out my hand. Problem solved. So, what do we learn? Uber senses are right. Water cup, coming out of a bar, drinking water, they're going to be a problem. They're going to be an issue. Have to assess it ahead of time. Problem, the downside of what I didn't do while I was ooga booging her hair and holding it back so she didn't yak on me, I didn't check for all her items. No matter the stop, no matter the situation, periodically, ask them where they stuff at. Uber senses. Thank you guys. No dash cam, no problem. Yes, no dash cam, no problem. Yeah, no dash cam means there probably going to be some problems, but no dash cam, no problem for me, usually. Because when I drive Uber, this is an Uber story. You should know this. The theme is Uber. When I was driving Uber, I wouldn't have a dash cam. First part of the story deals with why I didn't get a dash cam. I was looking at dash cams, and right before one of the nights I was going to drive Uber, sometimes I would buy supplies ahead of time. I might go to a local Best Buy and get some new headphones or chargers for the riders for the night, depending on how much money I thought I would make, if there was a big weekend party or something like that. When North Carolina A&T's homecoming comes, you want to have a lot of charger cords in the car because you know you're going to be going back to back from club to club, maybe sitting in traffic, and you want to have a charger for your phone as well as everybody else in the car because they're going through the same situation, and they will love you forever if you have those chargers. So I'll get those cigarette lighter chargers and things like that. And one night, it wasn't A&T homecoming, but it was going to be a pretty decent night, I felt, because the weather was nice. It was in the summer of 2018. I was once again in Winston on 4th Street, where a lot of the bars are located. And actually, it was Burke Street. And the bar itself was called Burke Street Pub. And I was interested in those cameras until I picked up these guys. I picked up 3 very well dressed yachting guys, waspy clothes, if you will. That's white Anglo-Saxon people. Look like the Kennedys, you know. They look like drunk Kennedys. They look like bad guys from any 80s movie you ever seen where the bad guy is rich. And they came out and they were well dressed. And I said, oh, I wonder where these guys are going. And they advised me they needed to do a down and back. So they added a stop. in my head, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't need a camera for these guys. But they further proved why I shouldn't have a camera, because they get in the car and they begin to talk as if I am not there, or they don't care what I think. So these 3 guys, one gets in the front. He asks nicely, can I sit in the front? And I said, of course. I'm in my Camry. Another 2 said, can we sit right here? Of course. Where else are you going to sit? So now I know they're drunk, because if one sits in the front, where else are you going to sit? In the trunk, which has happened before. I hope the statute of limitations, because I did have a guy that rode in the trunk because he was stuck, but that's another story altogether. They got in the car and they said, man, are you going to go see, name changed, are you going to go see Sarah? And he's like, man, she's bad. She's so bad. He looks at me and says, there's no camera in here, right? It's like, no. Now my Uber senses are starting to tinkle, because anytime somebody asks if there is a camera, you might have to get ready to, throw some blows up in here, or, kick some people out your car. And I was like, no, there's no camera, man. What's going on? He's like, well, she is bad. She's a volleyball player, and she's got those thighs and that butt. I was like, oh, I just love her. And we started, kissing and stuff. But I told her, hey, we need to stop. And I was like, why'd you tell her to stop? He's like, well, she's a volleyball player for a Division I school, and she's fine. And I had to tell her to stop, because I was like, yo, I got gonorrhea. I was like, and then I just paused and looked silent, like somebody mentioned, a men that having an STD is not a problem. I was like, oh, good for you. He's like, yeah, I told her I had gonorrhea, and she said, oh, okay, well, thank you for telling me. And then I told her, I was like, well, 14 days and I'll be off the pills. She said, okay, I'll wait for you. And they continued to hook up during this rest of his story of his triumph. And that made me think, I was like, oh my gosh, the youth of today, and why? And the whole reason he told me of his STD, and that he had 14 days of clearance, and the girl continued to kiss him, was because there was no camera. And I would have missed out on that story if I had a camera. And then my next trip, when I brought him back to 4th Street, I had another ride waiting, which happens sometimes, because you can accept a new ride while you're on a ride. If you've ever been in an Uber, you might hear it dinging and saying dring, dring, or something like that. They can then hit the button and accept the next ride. And because these guys did a down and back, as I like to call them, the gonorrhea gang, because they did a down and back, Uber knew that I was coming back to the Burke Street pub, and it had a ride waiting for me. So right when I pulled up, I dropped them off, and I had to wait for my next ride. Gonorrhea boys leave. I immediately wipe down the car, especially the seat, because I don't need no gonorrhea jumping on me from the leather, because I have leather seats. I don't know what's the shelf life on gonorrhea on surfaces, because I'm assuming it can come through his little khaki pants he had on and gingham shirt. So gonorrhea boys go out. I'm waiting on my next ride, which is Lisa, and I'm already assuming, Lisa's coming out of this bar because it says Burke Street, but because the bars are so tight, you don't really know where they're coming from. So I'm parked right in front of Burke Street, double parked, looking, making sure the cops are not giving me an issue, because the cops kind of give you a pass. If you're Uber with your flashers on, they realize you're being safe. You're getting drunk, you're sober, you're getting drunk people home, and I wasn't going to make somebody cross this dangerous road. Now, the road is not busy. It's a 2-lane road, but it's wide enough for 4 cars, because there's 2 cars parking on each side. But drunk people don't pay attention to crosswalks. There's jaywalking, all that stuff. So the cops give you a pass, and they're waiting outside of Burke Street, which is a sketchy bar in itself. Nice bar, gets sketchy people, is what we want to say. And Lisa comes out. Lisa is dressed like Daisy Duke, is the best I can explain it. Short shorts, tank top. She's curvaceous, well endowed up top, white lady, and long hair. She's drawing attention, so it's like, wow, everybody's gonna look at her because she's dressed like Daisy Duke. Like, can I have your autograph? Where are the rest of the Duke boys? Kind of situation. And she comes out and she's young looking, college age, and there's some older guys outside. 2 black guys, 2 white guys. The 2 black guys look my age or older, which at that time I was in my 30s, 38s, and older. Their beards are not cleanly shaven. They're wearing like South Pole shirts and South Pole pants, which is not in style since I was in high school, but it looks like they got it new somewhere. And then the white guys that were hanging out with them were wearing like Tommy extra big t-shirts, really shiny chains, maybe made of tinfoil, Reynolds tinfoil, real shiny and blingy, a lot of arm tattoos on these guys. And so it kind of looks like, oh yeah, I understand why these 2 guys hang together, even though they may be different races. They are the same beast of different tribes. They are the same people of different groups. These 2 guys would hang together, probably usually on a prison yard is how I'm sizing them up. I'm making complete assumptions here, just looking at them. I was like, why are these guys outside of like this bar? They're outside because they probably won't let them in. So they're out there smoking cigarettes. One of them is, but everybody's out. Okay. She comes out. This group of guys say to her something, which is low. She says, well, screw y'all then, or well, actually she says, well, F y'all then, but she doesn't say F. I don't know what the etiquette as far as me getting this podcast cleared, but she said, well, F y'all then, angrily, and walks past, and they say to her, we question whether you are a female dog. They didn't say that. They said the B word. And we question whether your parents were married when they had you. You sorry, such and such. They continue. She gets in the car. She doesn't ask like the gonorrhea boys did before her whether she can sit in the front and back. She sits in the front, which I'm fine with because once again, I think I could take her. I think I could knock out Daisy Duke if I had to. Lisa sits in the car. She says, George, this is after she's sitting in the car. George, I'm like, yeah, Lisa? She said, yeah. I was like, okay. All right. I say, so we're heading up here past Wake Forest University. And I say the street. She says, correct. I was like, okay, so we drive. This is going to be a little bit of a drive, especially when the person's not talking. She kind of took my first question away of how your night is going because she came out fussing and those guys looked at her and cursed at her and she cursed back. So it's not a good night. It is also, like I said, summer 2018. This is after the Me Too movement. So now I'm questioning as I drive, like, should I be asking her? I wonder what these people did to her. Because now her eyes are welling up like she's crying. And she's like looking at her phone and she's looking down and she's like tearing up and she's still not saying anything. And I'm like, you alright? I'm fine. She says, I'm fine, like that. I was like, well, shoot, I didn't do anything to you. But now I'm trying to remember these guys' faces. This is why I know so much detail about them, because I'm like, okay, I just saw something on the news about Me Too. Dudes are dogs. I'm wondering if we should call the cops. They might have grabbed her or hurt her or something like that, because it didn't just seem like a walkout. It seemed like something happened in the bar and now she's leaving. That's why those guys were thrown out and the cops were standing more so looking at them. So I'm just driving and I'm just looking and she's crying more and I'm like, okay. And we get to the place, get to our house, pull up and she's like, I'm so sorry. It was, oh God, I'm so sorry. I was like, it's all right. Are you okay? She's like, I'll be fine. So she gets out the car, goes to her apartment, pulls out a cigarette, and just sits down on the stairs. And I'm about to pull off, but I'm looking at her like, oh, me too, man. Hashtag me too. I gotta find out what's going on with her, because I'll be a witness or whatever, or just make sure she just doesn't group me in if they decide to do a Lifetime movie based on this, that I'm not played by like Faison Love. Like I would like a Morris Chestnut character if there would be a movie, and I would like to be the Uber driver that saves all, because I would be like Coffee from Green Mile, Magic Negro, as opposed to like a bad guy in a Tyler Perry movie, Dark Skinned Brothers usually. So I get out the car and I say, hey, Lisa, are you okay? I just want to make sure you didn't get hurt or anything. I'm saying all this with my palms up in a defensive position, several feet away, like before COVID, but giving her the COVID distance, making sure she doesn't think something bad's gonna happen, because Ubers usually leave. But I'm asking her, because she's still crying, she's sitting outside, she hasn't gone to an apartment. You okay? She's like, yeah, it's just those guys, they were trying to hit on me. I was like, okay, and I was supposed to see a guy there tonight, and he wouldn't talk to me. I was like, a guy you saw there, he wouldn't talk to you. Okay, and then what happened? She's like, well, I was supposed to meet the guy there, and he wanted to hang out with other girls, and he didn't talk to me, and I don't think I'm ever going to find a husband in this town. And at that moment, I realized, I was like, this woman just needs to put her big girl drawers on and suck it up. Because she is crying, not because she got me too, but because some butthole wouldn't talk to her when she went there, which I understand. But being quiet that whole time, and in this type of area, I'm ready to call the cops, because this woman is crying, and she's only crying because she can't find a man. I just immediately walked back and said, keep praying, keep drinking, and somebody will fall your way. You can only plant when you're grown. I was dropping all these maxims or idioms, whatever you call it, on her. I was like, you need fertile soil. You might want to move to Raleigh. Okay? Raleigh got better dudes than Winston. You'll get married. How old are you? She was 24. 24. You 24. You worry about it. It'll happen. Okay. Bye-bye. And I left. And that's why I think I needed a dash cam at first, because I was like, this woman is crying in my car, and if I got pulled over, it might have been a problem. Also, if we needed like testimony or something like that, or something would happen, I should have had a camera. So I was conflicted. But at the end, when I was cussing and fussing her at the end, when I got back in my car, I was fussing at her like, this woman got me all scared. I'm glad we didn't have a camera, because at least then I ended with the moral high ground. So no dash cam, no problem. Keep your Uber sense ready and stay safe, guys. Thank you. Well, thank you guys. You made it to the end of the Manly Mythical Story Emporium Uber Stories episode. I appreciate you guys for listening once again. If you're a first-time listener, thank you for listening. And this episode will be uploaded as a video on YouTube and then maybe Facebook. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to do both, because then I don't get like the interactions or whatever on both. But I think I'll just do both. More places is, even if it's not connected, I might not get credit, but whatever. Put it out there for the people. And let you know, at the end of the episode, I usually give little funny things that maybe happened to me during this week, or things that come to mind, or things that frustrate me. One of the things that I've started doing was surviving while black section at the end, just dealing with, what's racist and what's not, and how to survive, or what's going through a black man's head on a daily basis, because that's all I can do, because I've only been in the head of a black man. But today's episode was Uber Stories, and it really touched my heart, and I had flashbacks, and it was triggered several times, because anytime I watch Uber videos, I get triggered. But I want to let you know that I haven't drove Uber since the pandemic. And that's one of the reasons I've started doing the podcast, because I would just drag my feet talking about maybe possibly doing a podcast in my Uber. But I got that urge of telling stories out through Uber and through the story slam I would go to in downtown Greensboro. But now I'm here. Now you must suffer through my stories. Appreciate you guys for listening. The one thing that happened to me this week, because I tell people oftentimes that I probably couldn't have owned a house if YouTube didn't exist, and finding things on YouTube to fix around the house when things break, from like my sink stopping up in the kitchen and using a toilet plunger to kind of unplunge the kitchen sink, which worked. But one of the things I didn't learn was, properly labeling paint. Don't be pig-headed. That's the lesson. I painted the boys' room a while ago, and it went well. The paint looks good. It was like, I think it was called like heather, silver feather. It was the color silver feather. It was like supposed to be like a light blue. And we painted the room. I thought it would be darker, but it came out great. And just like boys do, they went and put a hole in the wall because I guess they had a beanbag in the wall and they decided, this wall is smooth and perfect. Let me put my head through it. And so they put a hole in the wall. And I went and got the extra paint that we had. And the reason I went and got the extra paint that we had in the garage was because I was smart enough to keep the paint from before. But I didn't keep the paint for the other hole the boy put it in the wall when he slipped down the stairs. I had to go buy that at Sherman-Williams and match all that up and pay a lot of money because my wife is bougie and we had Pottery Barn paint. But the paint in the room was not Pottery Barn paint. It was from Lowe's. And I didn't label it, and I started painting it, and it came out a little darker, and I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It dries up lighter. It didn't dry up lighter. I definitely got like a Smurf blue patch cover on a Carolina blue or sky blue wall. So I basically got Duke blue patch over Carolina blue wall right now in their room. I will be taking a picture of that and putting it on Instagram. And I suggest to you guys that are homeowners or that do maintenance, label your paint correctly and don't assume. Always do a little test watch, and you won't get fussed at. So test your paint so you don't have that, collegiate rivalry that Duke and Carolina going on. And when you get in an Uber, be out there waiting. Be waiting for the Uber. The Uber doesn't want to wait for you. They charge you for waiting. And we could easily cancel that ride and bounce on you and still get that cancellation fee. So be where you're supposed to be and know where you're supposed to be going. Don't be adding stops in the middle because you're messing up our money. When I get your ride and you saying you're going to like the McDonald's, I'm dropping you off. We don't like sitting in the drive-thru. Yeah, we get paid for waiting, but we get paid more for miles and getting that next ride. So don't go through the drive-thru line. That's not proper etiquette, especially if you're going to cookout and you don't know how to formulate a proper burger tray at the cookout. Thank you guys. Know how to formulate a proper burger tray and tell your Uber driver ahead of time, can you take me through the cookout drive-thru? And you should feel bad about yourself for doing that because that's what Uber Eats is for. And if you're riding in the Uber, it ain't Uber Eats. You just being Uber dumb. Thank you. Hey, and email me any suggestions. Please like, follow, subscribe. Don't send me some money so maybe I can do this all the time and the episodes be better and longer. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good week.